everyone, Eternia here, and today guys, I actually have to redo my part 2 video for the Proud Mode quests because the audio somehow got completely muffled and messed up. So, I'm gonna go through 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 again for you guys. So, let's go ahead and get started here. So, with Stage 6, special attacks allowed only for level 60 or higher medals, which means that guild doesn't matter, you can use any medals as long as they're level 60 or higher. So, currently on my Keyblade, all of these medals qualify, so I can go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm actually still in one of my skill perk outfits, but oh well, it can stay on there. It doesn't matter. And I'll go ahead and... Actually, I should just use Sephiroth on all of these, that way I don't waste too much special. I think that's what I'll do. I'll just use Sephiroth here on all of these. And I do apologize, guys, that this isn't my first time running through it. I really wish that my audio hadn't messed up on me, but I never feel comfortable with releasing a subpar video for you guys. I want to make sure that my videos are decent quality, and the last thing I want is to release a video where it's hard to hear me. So that's why we're redoing this. And honestly, maybe I can give some better explanations as to what some of these quests mean anyway, because going through it my first time, I wasn't entirely sure what some of the conditions were. Okay, so next one, only multiple target special attacks allowed, which means that it has to be an AoE medal. So single target medals like Kyrie and Timeless River Donald here do not qualify for their special attacks being used because they're single target. Sephiroth, on the other hand, because he's AoE, his special can be used. And because I'm going to be primarily using Sephiroth anyway, I'm just going to keep my Keyblade as is. So, it is actually really interesting. They've given us multiple different ways to complete these quests, and it isn't just simply, oh hey, you have to have all of your medals guilted at a certain percentage. It looks like they are trying to give us variety on these Proud Mode quests, which I think that's a good thing. It makes it more interesting, because let's face it, there are some requirements that are probably going to be really hard, so I'm glad that they've decided to at least throw a few easier ones in here for us. I do have to admit that I'm scared for once we progress even further, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my Nova just to get rid of these here. And hopefully I still have, my setup correct, because I think the Keyblade changes if I remember right, and hopefully I still have the setup on there. Either way, moving on to Quest 8. Okay, this next condition, only special attacks requiring 3 gauges is allowed. So, let me explain this one to you guys. So, you see that we can't use Sephiroth, and the reason for that is because his required gauges is 2. And as you notice, Kyrie and Timeless River Donald are the only medals on here currently that I can use because their required gauges are 3. So, I'm going to go ahead and just switch things up really quick. Let's see here. Okay, this was the Keyblade that I had put together, that way I could use, Jack, which I actually think I'm gonna just stick Jack on that slot, that way he can do more damage. just because I want to be able to eliminate the enemies fairly easy. So I'm glad that I still had that set up on there, so that way I can show you guys what I did when I went in here the first time. So I didn't really replace the reverse slots just because I really didn't have a good 3-gauge reverse speed. So I just kind of kept Marluxia B and Sephiroth on there, and so I stuck with my Kyrie and then my Donald and then Jack. So we're gonna go ahead and skip over the story, because like I said in my first video, we've already seen this stuff in the original story quests. And like I said before, I just basically used Jack to get through this, just because he works well on that slot of Divine Rose, and he can eliminate the enemies when he is fully guilted. And I know I don't need to defeat all these enemies, but I'm just doing it to show you guys what I went through the first time that I did it. Okay, and for this one here, I'm just gonna go ahead and use my Nova. And honestly guys, I'm sure as we progress, it's not going to be as simple as just sticking like one medal on there and working with that. We're probably going to need multiple medals that we have to work with. Okay, so now we're at quest 9, and I think this is where the Keyblade switches. Yes, this is where the Keyblade switched. And this one, special attacks allowed only for level 100 or higher medals. So this one's a pretty easy requirement too. You can basically use any medal as long as they are level 100 or higher. And for me, I'm making my main damage dealer Riku replica here. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to tap until I get to Riku replica. And one thing that I actually mentioned in my first video is how I never use Starlight, just because the setup's really awkward and I just can't come up with a good combination for Starlight, like, ever, to be perfectly honest. Because one day I would like to try and use Starlight more, just because it's a medal or a Keyblade that we really just don't use that often. Hopefully one day there will be a good medal combination that I can try, and maybe I can use Starlight more. Because for when you're first starting the game, Starlight is actually a very good Keyblade to level up, and Starlight can actually carry you pretty far at the beginning of the game. But, I mean, now, honestly, Starlight's not really that usable. Okay, this condition, special attacks allowed only for medals with 7,500 or higher strength. Which means, for example here, if my Kyrie was not Chippendaled, I would not be able to use her, because her strength is only at base 7,053. But because I have her Chippendaled, I'm able to use her. So, let's go ahead and get started here. And if I recall, I think that this stage is relatively short too, but I don't remember for sure. Because I actually recorded this video yesterday, so I may not remember everything for sure. Yeah, this is basically the same. Actually, I probably should have noticed that before, that these are actually the same layouts as the story quests, but they're just harder. That's something that I actually didn't notice before. Because this is exactly the same as the original Stage 10, just a higher difficulty on the enemies here. Alright, so that was it for the next 5 quests here of Proud Mode, guys. And next video, I will be doing the next set of 5 quests. So, thank you so much for watching, and take care. Bye!